Joining us now is CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair. Thank you so much for joining us once again, CJ. I mean, what an excuse. If all she does is work, she can at least acknowledge the crime stats that show that crime has absolutely plummeted in DC. But CJ, I know you are sending me a therapy bill for all this leftist media I've been consuming and then I've been forcing you to watch as well. But what's your assessment of all of that? I mean, you've got the BBC doctoring Donald Trump's speech. You've got Whoopi Goldberg absolutely crashing out over being fact-checked. And Trump's return to 60 Minutes there.
You know, it's part of the course for all of those people, so I'm not actually all that surprised. Whoopi Goldberg, described what she was saying, which was a blatant lie, as simply a joke. I was under the impression that jokes are supposed to be funny.
Oh,
but of course, just simply a cop-out. She knew that she was lying. She knew that she was speaking, falsely about President Trump, but she thought she wouldn't be corrected. But thankfully, we live in a new era of accountability where President Trump has been governing with the FAFO doctrine. And she was very afraid, as I'm sure the legal counsel in her ear was very afraid, that they would be held accountable for spreading that lie about President Trump. Here's the deal. There's a very clear difference between President Trump and Joe Biden. First and foremost, their cognitive ability. We have a president now who actually knows that he is president. We didn't have that under Joe Biden. And so this insinuation that somehow, some way that President Trump isn't mentally all there, when every single day we hear from him speaking to the press with vitality, with energy, and just absolutely, I try to compare my energy to his, and I think he laps me in some cases, right? It's just silly to me that they try to gaslight the American people to believing that he's somehow unwell.
I think about that too. I mean, his energy levels are unbelievable. Let's talk about former First Lady Michelle Obama, because she's complaining again. This time, she's insisting that her family didn't get the grace that other first families got. Listen to this.
You said we were all too aware that as a first black couple, we couldn't afford any missteps.
Yeah.
And you also say, as a black woman, I was under a particularly white hot glare. Did you feel that?
For sure. You can't afford to get anything wrong because you didn't get at least until the country came to know us, we didn't get the grace that I think some other families have gotten.
CJ, doesn't she love to play that victim card? The truth is, the Obamas were treated far better than other families. And you look at the way Michelle Obama was treated compared to Melania Trump. I mean, you can't even compare it.
It's their favorite card in their wallet, the race card, right? And to be quite frank, you look at the treatment of Melania Trump, who is probably, inarguably, objectively, one of the most beautiful first ladies we've ever seen, who has been boycotted by every major fashion magazine from their covers, right? Yet they have folks like Hillary Clinton on them and, folks like her on them that they hail as like the second coming of Christ. It's absolutely insane. I also am old enough to remember when you had, folks on the left like, Kathy Griffin, whose name I actually struggle to remember there because of how irrelevant she's become, who was musing about the death of President Trump and also basically speculating about whether or not Barron Trump suffered from a mental disability. Like these were people who were openly saying these things without any shame, without any embarrassment, because they felt as if they had a permission slip to do so. So this entire we felt as if we were mistreated. I'm sure Barron Trump felt mistreated. I'm sure Eric Trump and Don Jr. felt mistreated when they had to endure the lawfare at the hands of the Biden DOJ that they were subjected to. And not just the lawfare under the Biden DOJ, but also the deep state when President Trump was even in the White House from the bowels of the Department of Justice here in the States. And so, I honestly, I don't know who she's trying to convince with this narrative, but I'm not buying it. I don't think many of the American people are either.
No, absolutely not. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who somehow has a net worth of hundreds of millions of dollars, has gone on CNN to rant about Donald Trump for, something new. And she called him the worst thing on the face of the earth. Watch this.
He's just a vile creature, the worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do, yeah, I do.
Why is that?
Because he's the President of the United States and he does not honor the Constitution of the United States. In fact, he's turned the Supreme Court into a rogue court. He's abolished the House of Representatives.
I mean, the fact that you've got CNN pushing back against what Nancy Pelosi is saying about Donald Trump says a lot, doesn't it? But really, to describe him as the worst thing on the face of the earth, I mean, how many global conflicts has the president solved just this year? I mean, bringing historic peace to the Middle East? Anyone? Cracking down on crime in liberal cities?
Right, exactly that. And I would actually describe the worst person on the face of the earth as one of the left's passionate followers who killed Charlie Kirk, who's currently sitting in a jail in the state of Utah. So maybe Nancy needs to, I don't know, open her eyes and into the reality that we currently find ourselves in as a country. But here's the deal. You know, all of these people know how to do is speak in hyperbole and absolutely just live in a constant state of crashing out. Like, it's actually unwell. These people need Xanax. Like, to say with a straight face he's abolished the House of Representatives, a body of which she is a member, a body of which, you know, she reports to work, not often, you know, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for us, but, you know, it's actually crazy. These people just lie straight through their teeth. And what she actually should be doing is encouraging her colleagues in the United States Senate to reopen our government so that our military service members can actually get paid, so that, you know, folks that are, you know, getting government benefits that actually need it, not folks that are using it and abusing it, but actually need it, children don't go hungry. But instead, she wants to go on CNN and spread these lies about President Trump. They're absolutely divorced from reality. Give me a break.
Democrat John Fetterman is having none of it, slamming Nancy Pelosi for her comments. Listen to this.
I would say that's part of the worst creatures on the face of the earth are Hamas, or like the leadership of Iran, or there's a lot of people on that. I would never use those kind of terms, and I wouldn't describe our president. You can really disagree with him, and I do disagree, but I don't think that's really entirely appropriate, but that's her words for that. So for me, that's just a different kinds of a Democrat for me. I don't going to call people they're fascists, they're Nazis, or compare the people in those kinds of terms.
He makes sense, CJ. And John Fetterman, he's also blasted Democrats, arguing that they need to own their role in the federal government shutdown.
He is, and God bless him for it. You know, every time he opens his mouth, he's beginning to sound more and more like a Republican. So hopefully, I think he'll find his way over here. We'll welcome him with open arms. He may have to wear a suit if he becomes a Republican, but, you know, we'll take him as he is.
Now, one of the issues that the Democrats seem to really be fighting on is keeping illegals in the country. They're, of course, against ICE agents doing their job. They're against Donald Trump carrying out his promise of deporting illegals. And this voter went on Fox News with a bit of a truth bomb for the left.
The difference between being kind, and to me, my faith is one thing is being nice to people from different lands, but they also have to be respectful of our laws. And everybody wants to come to the United States because we have a great economy, have a lot of opportunity, but there's a process to do that. My family has been here since at least the 1700s. There's no one that's gave us a free $1,400 debit card. No one gave us a free apartment. No one gave us anything free. We had to work for it. So there is a process. And if we respect all people, that means that the people that come here need to respect our laws. And that's all that we're saying. We allowed 20 million immigrants in here legally since 2000. How much is too much, and how much are we going to put the burden on the taxpayers, because the money has to come from somewhere? It's just common sense.
CJ, some common sense there, so I'm sure the left will find a way to call this guy radical.
You know, it's incredibly, you know, an incredible example of common sense, but unfortunately, common sense is far too uncommon in the modern day Democrat Party. But he's exactly spot on. You know, one of the cornerstones of being an American is not believing in two tiers of justice. And I think that applies to the illegal immigration problem in this country. If you are an American citizen, whether you're white or you're black, and you broke the laws of our land, you would be thrown in jail. So why should we allow these people to show a complete disrespect for our laws, infiltrate our country, and not say, no, you got to go back to where you came? It's not rocket science. It's not a hard thing to understand. But also, too, I know that's not a hard thing to understand because the majority of Americans understand it. It's exactly why they voted for President Trump. They gave him the mandate he did. These things are not like random things that he just came up with after he got elected. He said, I'm just going to do mass deportations and send all these people back from where they came. No, he ran on that every single day, every single night. He said that he was going to do exactly this. And I think the thing that probably bewilders Washington the most is he's a politician that's actually keeping his promise. That's exactly why the American people respect him so much and put him right exactly where he is at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
I know, isn't it wild, keeping a promise? Now, woke Hollywood celebrities, of course, love to make it known how much they hate Donald Trump, but the penny seems to have dropped for actress Jennifer Lawrence when it comes to how people vote and how many people seem to just ignore what Hollywood actors actually have to say.
You have been politically outspoken in the past. In the first Trump administration, you had a lot to say. I'm curious how you feel about talking out now.
I don't really know if I should. I think like the first Trump administration was so wild, and just how can we let this stand? Like I felt like I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But as we've learned, election after election, celebrities do not make a difference whatsoever on who people vote for. And so then what am I doing? I'm just sharing my opinion on something that's going to just add fuel to a fire that's ripping the country apart.
Yeah, I think someone needs to tell George Clooney that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad that Jennifer Lawrence has come to this epiphany that was pretty apparent to the rest of us with functioning brains a long time ago. But I'm glad, some of us are a little slower than others. So welcome to the reality, Jennifer. But, here's the thing. I think she is actually spot on in the sense that the American people a long time ago realized that we were not going to allow Hollywood elites to dictate the direction of this country. And thank God for that. But what I hope she understands now is that, she should actually go outside of her, cosmopolitan, posh lifestyle and go talk to real Americans about what's going on, and go into the inner cities of, across America. And you'll actually hear from, Black families and Black mothers, single Black mothers who are saying, thank God for President Trump for taking action, sending the National Guard. So now that my child can go play on the sidewalk, thank him, for creating jobs here at home by his, implementing the tariffs that he has. And so I got to say, again, I hope that this is a first step to recovery for her. And I hope that there are many more steps to come, because I think she's so close, but we're not quite past the finish line yet.
We're not there yet. No, that's absolutely right. Look, finally, before I let you go, quickly, Barack Obama, he's being slammed after headlining a Virginia rally for Democratic nominee for governor Abigail Spanberger, which included an appearance by Attorney General candidate Jay Jones. Now, of course, we remember Jay Jones spoke in detail about the fantasy of murdering former House Speaker Todd Gilbert and his children. It was absolutely horrific reading some of those text messages. And Obama, he doesn't seem to have a problem with this, CJ.
No, it's disgusting, but again, par the course, unsurprising for these Democrats. It's one set of rules for them, another set of rules for us. And that's exactly what I've always said. This political violence issue, they always try to make this seem as if it's on both sides issue. It is not. The bullets are coming from left to right. And when it comes to actually showing leadership and condemning political violence when it actually matters, they did not meet the moment. They did not pass the test, and we should never let them forget it. Jay Jones has no business being the chief law enforcement of Virginia when he is wishing death upon not only his political opponents, but their families and their little children as well. It's just god awful. And hopefully the people of Virginia reject him and ensure that he never steps foot in that office.
Absolutely. CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see you.